Live from downtown Vancouver at the Vancouver Film School campus, it's time for EP Live. Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and this is my buddy Johnny Millennium from the Happy Console. Look, you're not looking happy enough.
Why? What do you mean? I'm happy.
All right.
We didn't have sound for a second. Okay. We have sound. I'm very, very
happy.
Do
we have sound? Fingers crossed. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Hey,
fantastic. All right. Yes, it's the internet.
We're back again.
You guys are very kind and patient with us. That's awesome. We bring you the latest in everything cool every single day, and we've got an awesome show for you today. Not only is Johnny Millennium here to help me with the rundown, which is going to be a lot of fun. We'll get to that in a second. But we've got Denny Unger from Cloudhead Games in, and he is going to tell us all about their studio and the awesome VR games that they make. It's a very unique story, and I can't wait to have him on the show. But we've got a great rundown to get to. This one is going out to Giancarlo Taguba, who says, "Thank you for this rundown, Vic. I really love your YouTube channel. Could I get a shout out? Thank you kindly, Victor Lucas," and this is why he got it, comma, King of the North. I will take King of the North. Cool. I like that.
I've heard
that's
that
nice.
One before.
That's a great moniker for me. I appreciate that. Let's get started with your rundown. Following light-hearted superhero movies like Aquaman and Shazam, DC wants to put a different kind of smile on your face. The first trailer for the new Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix was released this morning. The film, written and directed by War Dogs and The Hangover's Todd Phillips, explores a new Joker origin story, with Phoenix playing a down-on-his-luck comedian who turns to a life of crime, with visual cues and subject matter clearly inspired by Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. Scorsese, incidentally, is serving as a producer on the film, with Robert De Niro in a supporting role. DC's idea is that this Joker movie tells a one-off story outside the continuity of other movies like Aquaman and Justice League, similar to their Elseworlds comic imprint. It hits theaters this October. Did you see this trailer?
I did watch it this morning.
What did you think?
Controversial thing to say.
Yeah?
I didn't like it.
And why is that?
I don't know. It just seems not like the Joker that I want to see. It seemed more
comical. What was it missing?
Some kind of superheroes,
some guy with pointy ears and
something a little bit more
suit with black on it.
I know everybody's gonna hate my opinion, but I just didn't care for it at all.
No, I don't hate it, but
I don't hate it, but it's not really what I really want to see.
I'm in that vein because I feel like Joaquin Phoenix, he's played crazy a million times.
But he's a great actor.
He's an amazing actor, and he's amazing at playing crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's done it,
I'm fine.
Okay,
he's
got makeup now and he's crazy, but there's such a tough act to follow with.
Maybe
the
you just can't get Jack Nicholson out of my mind. Maybe
or
that's
Heath
what
Ledger.
It is. He was good as well.
Yeah,
I didn't care for him as much as well. I know people hate my opinion on it.
That's okay,
for sure,
but I love that you have an opinion.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We'll go see that movie. My prediction:
we'll see it.
We're gonna see Batman in this movie. This is going to be
we heard his voice, didn't we?
No,
was that not it?
It was a little bit weird. No, but I feel like we're going to get the unveiling of the new Batman, and I feel, because this movie's set in the 80s, Blake and I were talking about this, I feel like that Batman will then be in Wonder Woman 1984, and that
smart.
will be the young Batman. And the last chunk of my prediction, I happen to like Batman. I don't know if you guys know that.
A little bit.
My last chunk of that prediction is that Ben Affleck will make a reappearance as an old Bruce Wayne later on, because he's still attached as a producer to all this stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see if any of that comes true. But it was a bit weird, and it was a bit Batman-less.
Yeah. It just didn't seem like a superhero-y type of anything. He didn't seem like a great supervillain.
No.
He seemed like an ordinary dude.
But we've got more superhero news, because that's what you come to EPN for. It looks like Chief Hopper and the new Hellboy are jumping into the Marvel movie universe. Stranger Things and Hellboy star David Harbour has joined the cast of the upcoming Black Widow movie. According to The Hollywood Reporter, he'll appear alongside Scarlett Johansson as the male lead, although it's unclear what character he might be playing. We do know that the movie is expected to be a prequel exploring Black Widow's early years as a Russian spy before joining S.H.I.E.L.D., so don't go thinking that this movie guarantees that she's going to survive Avengers Endgame. Shooting begins this summer. It doesn't seem like a coincidence that Marvel is moving forward with this movie right after the blockbuster success of their first female-led adventure, Captain Marvel, which just broke $1 billion worldwide. I don't think that there was that much of a correlation. I think they were invested in giving Scarlett Johansson a justly deserved Black Widow movie. I think she's great as this character.
Oh, for sure. I got to ask you, though.
Yeah.
Did you get your Avengers tickets?
No, but we should be getting an early screening.
I'm away. I'm away on vacation.
If I didn't get Avengers tickets to see it, and they don't have a screening. They've done that before.
They've done that before.
Disney, please have an early screening for us, us lowly critics here that need to see this movie to talk about.
I'm so
we
bummed.
need to help spread the word that Avengers Endgame is coming.
Yeah, nobody's going to see this movie.
Yes, they need some marketing help. They need some criticism of the movie.
It's an indie film.
Yeah, no, I know. They've already made a quadrillion. Is quadrillion a number?
Yeah.
They've made that. But I'm psyched about Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. Yeah. I think she deserves her own movie. She's kicked ass, literally and figuratively, in every sense of the word, in every one of her appearances so far. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to happen now. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
for sure. So.
And I hope she doesn't die. I hope that there's more, you know?
Yeah.
I hope none of them die, and I hope none of them quit.
Can't wait for the surprises.
I know, man. It's heartbreaking to even think about it. We're not talking about it, though.
Yeah.
Let's just go see the movie. Okay, mark your calendars because you'll be able to return to the vaults of Pandora sooner than you might think. After last week's reveal at PAX East, Gearbox has announced that Borderlands 3 will hit the PS4, Xbox One, and PC on September 13th. Gearbox has also confirmed that the PC version will be a timed exclusive on the Epic Games Store. Ooh. Much to the chagrin of Steam fans, pre-orders have already begun and the game will be available in 4 different versions. Oh my God, we're going to talk about this in a second, including a massive $250 Diamond Loot Chest Collector's Edition. Try saying that 10 times fast, with several models and figures. We also know from Microsoft's listing of the game that the co-op will have cross-platform support between the Xbox One and PC, although Sony hasn't said if PS4 players will also be able to get in. If you can't wait for Borderlands 3, the new remastered version of the very first Borderlands game drops today. Are you a Borderlands fan?
I don't mind it. I played it with my friends and just kind of screwed around, but nothing serious. Were you a big fan?
You know what? We thought it was kind of tedious when we first played it. Scott and I reviewed that back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And then we both got completely addicted and hooked. And it sunk its teeth into us, and we started to appreciate what a beautiful experience it is. And it's the sense of humor, it's the tongue-in-cheek, it's
the world
the
setting
crazy
and all
bosses that you meet.
Sure.
You know, it's had such a sense of irreverence.
I think from the new trailer, people are going to be, who are fans of the old ones will love this new one.
Yeah, and they defined this looter shooter thing, that's this craze that we're in right now.
That's all it is now.
But the other craze that I want to talk about here is these Diamond Loot Chest Collector's Editions. Honestly, they're releasing games with charts now.
I know.
What version of the game it's like somebody opening up their coat and there's like a huge long list of titles that you might want to buy.
It was like the Shenmue when that Kickstarter went live.
Yeah.
And you were proving to everybody what kind of Shenmue fan you were by what tier you bought. So people were saying to me, you only bought that tier?
No way.
It? Yeah, you're not that big of a fan, are you? I'm like,
oh my
I just
God.
spent $140.
Oh my God.
How much am I supposed to spend? Like $400?
That's wrong.
To show them I'm a fan? It's ridiculous. Same thing for this.
Remember when we talked to people that are much older than us?
Oh, much older.
About the old days of video games where there was one game and one price and you got the whole thing.
Oh my God.
Remember those days?
Have we hit that point in our time? Oh my God.
Crotchety old men.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. I can't handle this idea of being a tiered purchase.
No, I don't like that either.
That's stupid.
I just want to buy the game, it works, and that's it.
Yes.
But that's not the case anymore.
I don't think we're changing. I don't think we do change until we go to subscription. Then all of that, it gets kind of scrubbed out.
That's around the corner. So.
Close.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
We kind of still, it's crazy because we just want our physical collections and we don't want this tiered stuff, but we also want subscription.
Right.
We want it all.
Yes.
And
we'll never be happy.
And the action figures, and we don't want to have to pay $250 for it. All right, BioWare's online game Anthem has gone off to a shaky start, a very rough start, and it sounds like it had an even shakier development. Yesterday, Kotaku published a lengthy article detailing the behind-the-scenes turmoil that unfolded during Anthem's development. Citing unnamed sources with the studio, the article claims that BioWare had a difficulty deciding what kind of game Anthem would be, with some members of the team still unsure of what they were doing all the way up to and including the time when the game was unveiled at E3 2017. Because of this, they had a huge workload during the last 18 months, with the studio suffering an incredibly stressful crunch time to get the game finished. Kotaku claims that this crunch time forced many employees to take stress leave and damaged morale at the studio. This rush to get the game out could explain many of the bugs and glitches in the final product. BioWare and EA have already issued statements denying some, but not all of the accusations in the Kotaku article, but have admitted that they could do a better job avoiding crunch time. And this is a
got a lot to talk about here.
Very, very sensitive awful issue right now.
I
isn't it?
think the big problem with this game, from what I read, and I read all of that, it was huge last night. I was there for like an hour reading it, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Jason Schreier is the guy.
Jason Schreier
did
a great job.
Reporter, great reporter.
19 people he interviewed.
Yes.
Behind the scenes.
Yes.
And what it seems to me is it was 4 years of them not knowing what game they were making.
Yes.
They should have known in the first sit down, like, what kind of direction we're going to go in. They should have made a one-player game, allowing your friends to drop in.
Yeah.
It's easy for us to say that now.
Yes, it is.
But I can't believe 4 years of not knowing what they were doing. Right to the end, they were changing everything all the way to the very end.
I used to have this pitch idea for a TV show that was based on a development studio that couldn't figure out what their game direction was going to be, and it had been based on some early relationships that I had with game makers and how things could change and people could be into a mode, and it would shift the whole sort of development skew and project on a dime.
Right.
And there would be a lot of people just making art and things for something they didn't know was going to happen. That has become reality. And it used to be that was, I think, kind of forgivable when the team size was 30 or 40. But when you're talking about 400,
yeah, 3 studios,
and millions and millions of dollars being poured into it, it's really, really dangerous. And you know, EA, and this is the thing that really gets me. It's not like EA and Anthem and Bioware are alone in this. It's just that they've had 2 strikes with Anthem and with Mass Effect Andromeda, and so they've got this target on them. But you know, I thought about this article and this unbelievable stress yesterday, and all I could think about, and my heart aches for the junior developers that have, signed up with BioWare, possibly moved to Edmonton to be a part of the studio, and they believe in it because they grew up with the games, and they are just showing up to work in full belief of all their managers and all of the people that are scoping out the future for their business. And it's heartbreaking because
it is. Yeah.
They're reading these stories. They're also seeing the anger from the players of the game, and there's a lot to be angry about. And
they
a lot to learn
they
from.
all knew about all the problems when they were working on it, and
Yep.
they can't say anything when your boss is saying no, do it this way, and you're like, okay, this is my job, so you do that.
Yeah.
But you don't believe in the project, and then when it comes out, it's a disaster, and you're like, I knew it, and I couldn't change it, I couldn't do anything.
And this isn't the first time that this has happened. Destiny had some really rough patches. The first division when it launched, I feel like this games as service, multi-tiered kind of reality that we have in games that are so expensive to make and so expensive to stay with, it's counterproductive to the future of the medium. I mean, it might be making some people a lot of money, but it's creating a lot of hostility and a lot of anger out there.
6 more months on Anthem might have changed everything.
Yeah.
They said when they got to the final build, they felt that it was almost there, and then they had to ship it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't ready.
Yeah.
A little bit more time. I mean, the gameplay, you play it and you're like, when I first played Anthem, I was like, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah,
is it me?
But I feel like...
But it was the game.
It was the game,
yeah.
And I feel like that there was this it's like a lot of decisions to fund games are based on what they think the audience will tolerate. The amount of screw tightening, right? Like we'll just add these little bits and pieces in
later.
Yeah. But we'll ask for this money and this money and
get
this
them
money,
in, and then we'll fix it later. You can't do that.
There's a lot broken right now.
Oh
in
yeah.
games, and
they thought the Metacritic score was going to be 70, and they were shocked when it was like 55 or something like that. Whatever it is now, it's in the 50s.
I mean, I can't imagine what the morale is at the studio.
There is no morale at the studio.
And there's a lot of people that I know over there. Lots of people that I've known over the years, and I've really enjoyed the work out of that company. I feel like we really need to hear from Andrew Wilson, though. And I've said this before, like Andrew Wilson is the leader of EA. And we've had we've had 3 major things go wrong with Electronic Arts. We've had Mass Effect Andromeda, we've had Amy Hennig leave, we've had Jade Raymond leave, we had the Star Wars Battlefront debacle, and now we've got Anthem and the bad taste in people's mouths. There's been a lot of people laid off. There's been a lot of anger in EA's direction.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like it's incumbent on Andrew Wilson he comes from development, to sort of figure out how to tell this story so that we all understand it. And it's not just thinking about the investors, but we as players, because EA is a beautiful business. It's a beautiful company that has created amazing work for us, amazing games.
It's got a very bad name
and
now.
Right
he's
now,
got to clear up that name.
They got to do something, And I feel like he's the leader, And
that's tough.
he shouldn't fall on his sword, but
Yeah.
he should have some kind of message around this, and he should stick up for people like Casey Hudson, who went back to Bioware to kind of, refocus the business and get Anthem out there, and he's a lifer, and all of this can be fixed and saved and salvaged, and I think the Respawn news and the upcoming announcement of their new Star Wars game.
We could spend 2 hours talking about this subject. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
Very deep.
Yeah, but we've got more show for you guys. Definitely going to be reading the comments. Definitely we'll catch up a little bit in Let's Play and chat about this stuff. But right now, let's go to This Day in Everything Cool. Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for April 3rd. A lot of things in the tech industry got smaller on this day throughout history. On April 3rd, 1973, telephones got a lot smaller and portable. Motorola engineer Martin Cooper successfully tested his new invention, a handheld cellular telephone, placing the first call to a colleague at Bell Labs. The prototype phone worked by being wirelessly connected to a base station on the roof of the building that was itself connected to a traditional telephone landline. The first consumer cell phones didn't hit the market until 10 years later, and cell phones have since changed the world, making it easier to stay in touch with each other no matter where we are or what we're doing. That's when phones started getting smaller, and on April 3rd, 1981, computers got smaller too. The Osborne 1, the world's first mass-produced portable computer, was unveiled to the public at the West Coast Computer Fair in San Francisco. There had been several portable computer prototypes before that, including ones from IBM and Xerox, but the Osborne 1 was the first that was actually mass-produced and sold to the public. It cost $1,800 and came with 64 kilobytes of RAM, a 5-inch display screen, and weighed a massive 23 pounds, and on top of that, it didn't have a battery, so you had to plug it into a wall outlet in order to use it. The machine wasn't a success, and its maker, the Osborne Computer Corporation, went under a few years later. Portable computers didn't really start taking off until the 1990s. On this day in 2010, Apple helped make personal computing a little smaller. The very first iPad was released in the United States, with a release in other countries following a few weeks later. Apple had been rumored to be working on a tablet for several years, using a large touchscreen similar to the iPhone, but the device was met with skepticism when it was first announced, with many wondering what purpose it would serve, given that it sort of fell in the middle ground between smartphones and desktop computers. Apple proved them wrong, and the iPad was a huge hit, selling more than 15 million units in its first year. It wasn't the first tablet to hit the market, but it was the first to become a success, and it led to the creation of an entire new tablet industry, with countless other tech companies like Samsung and Toshiba rushing to create their own. See, lots of amazing things have happened on this day throughout history to change our mood a little bit off of the Bioware, firestorm that's happening right now. And in fact, we've got some more good news for you. We've got a great guest on the show today from Cloudhead Games off of Vancouver Island. I'm going to find out exactly where on Vancouver Island. Denny Unger is here. Please put your hands together for Denny. Come on up, my friend. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Got to wear the toques again. It was nice and sunny and warm for a minute, and now it's back to Vancouver.
It's true. People recognize me for the toque. I wouldn't wear it. But
Yeah.
That's what they know me.
Oh, it's your look. Yeah, it's my look is like
it's
this.
It's become a brand that I didn't want.
I know all about that. Cloudhead Games. The name evokes VR. Was it always meant to be a VR studio?
Yes.
Yes.
I was a huge VR nerd back in the 90s.
So you were a believer way back when?
Yes, Virtuality, the first kind of VR commercialized headset, and it was, I did it at Edmonton Klondike Days, actually. It was the first time.
Wow.
And it was a terrible experience. It made me sick to my stomach. I went to the bathroom sweating, and it wasn't good, but...
I'm going to slide you up just a little bit, because these mics are pretty directional, but there you go.
Is that better?
So your first experience with VR was terrible.
Yes.
But you saw the opportunity.
Well, I thought, given the trajectory and how it was, it's bound to get better.
Yeah.
And it's bound to get better sooner. And so from that point forward, I kind of got into the garage hacker VR movement.
Awesome.
And
did you get a Virtual Boy?
I did. I had a Virtual Boy at one point. It was terrible as well. Many missteps happened along the way. So I got into building like collimated displays and flight sims, and I was a huge VR nerd, garage guy.
While also being a traditional game maker, or?
No, at that time I was in board game development and Dungeons and Dragons development.
Amazing.
And stuff like that.
That's great.
Moved into video game design over time, and worked for some smaller studios. But I ended up meeting Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus,
Yeah.
On a message board called MTBS. And this is before Oculus happened. And he had done this really smart thing. This is where all the enthusiasts kind of hung out, right?
Right.
But he had done this really smart thing where he had combined off-the-shelf consumer technology in a really smart way with, leap optics and a single panel and the gyroscope from your phone and all this stuff. And we're all watching this going, there's like a couple hundred of us going, this is something that's going to tip, right? We should pay attention. And at that point, a bunch of us were going to just buy a kit. We put it together ourselves at home.
Right.
And
like the old early Apple computers.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
You'd assemble it yourself.
Very,
Apple I.
Very hobby stuff, right?
Yeah.
And around that time, Carmack saw what Palmer was doing, John Carmack, and started taking it around and shopping it around. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this is going to turn into something massive. I took all the resources from my prior company, which was in D&D and board games, and pumped it into a VR company. I'm like, we have to build a title for this. It's going to be massive. And that's where the gallery Call of the Starseed, our first game, started its development. So that was back in late 2012, basically.
And so how big of a company did you have at that point? And were they game makers, traditional game makers? Did you employ a bunch of those folks?
Well, so I had a prior business, and it just kind of ran on its own steam. And then I was working for a small studio that did like advergaming flash games, and I was miserable.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept bringing this thing up. I'm like, VR is going to turn. It's going to pivot. It's going to turn. We should really think about a pivot.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get kind of an agreement within the studio. So I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm going to start my own company and do this thing. And from there, I had other people I knew that knew how to program and everything else.
Had come from other traditional games? Because when you play the gallery, when you play, I've only touched the first game. I haven't gone to the second game. I have these long gaps before I get back into it, because I talk about all these other kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed by how polished it was and how much it felt like a bunch of vets and game-making pros had worked on it. So
Thank you.
Clearly brought some of that talent on board.
Yeah, it was a lot of thinking about what would be an ideal first VR experience.
Yes.
What do I want to? What's the fantasy of putting on a headset?
That's the other thing that I got too, is that you're trying to define a language, and I think that's incumbent on first software for any emerging hardware, is that you not only are just trying to entertain people, you're trying to create a language that other developers will carry forward with them.
Yes.
And that seemed to be what you were doing with the game.
That was a huge part of just building it from the starting point, which was at that point we had DK1, 3 DOF tracking, and generally the hardware was terrible. There was no hand controllers. There was none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So we were working with Razer Hydra, which was they were the only surrogate motion controllers we could find.
Right.
But we were so confident that VR would eventually have hands.
Yes.
And that's how you would interact, that we're like, that has to be core to the design. And we wanted it to feel like this fun Goonies adventure story, like kind of an Indiana Jones Goonies weird hybrid thing.
Awesome.
Where you're the central figure in the story. Being you and being present as you in that experience was really important. It was a pillar of the design. Right?
Also tying into your D&D background a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
That's great.
But yeah, so many stumbling blocks, and no one knew how to locomote in VR.
Yeah.
So we invented a thing called VR comfort mode, which was people. The elephant in the room with VR in the early days was that it made people sick because of vection.
That elephant is still in the room.
It is because developers don't pay enough attention to lessons learned.
Yeah.
We know that vestibular disconnect, and it's called vection, make people sick in VR. So if I'm artificially turning the player in the world and I'm not physically turning, my inner ear and my eyeball disagree.
Right.
And I get sick.
Yes.
So the way we started thinking about it, well, how do dancers get around that? Like, a ballerina spins and she's maintaining her balance and her inner ear balance by spotting. She's always looking at one fixed point every time she rotates.
Yes.
So how do we convert that into software? So we had artificial rotation happening. Okay, well, maybe we just sidestep the rotation moment and do these discrete snaps. So snap turns became a thing.
Yes.
And that ended up solving. It's something that sounds weird, but when you're in VR and if you have to do an artificial rotation, it feels right. It's like you're blinking.
You know that's a hard pill to swallow for a long-time gamer, though.
Yes.
Because, when I started to do the snap turns, luckily, my locomotion in VR is pretty solid. I've only had a couple of moments where I've ever felt queasy, and that was when I went full locomotion in Doom and a couple of other shooter-type games.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to just jump into a game and do the turn type thing.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's weird.
And so
it's a conceit.
Yeah, and you have to keep training people at this stage. Are we going to get past that?
I think we're already, like, so part of the problem developing for VR, especially from 2013 kind of forward, because that's when the first dev kits started coming out, was every 6 months the hardware would change.
It's different, yeah.
So we started with 3 DOF, which meant you could pivot your head but nothing else.
Right.
And then we got 6 DOF, where we could start to get some lean in, and then controllers still weren't on the table at all.
Yeah.
But with every step, eventually Valve saw what we were doing with the Razer Hydra and the DK2, the Oculus.
Yes.
And it was Chet Falasek from Valve. He was like, this is the first time I played a VR game that didn't make me sick.
Cool.
And he's like, you should come see what we're doing. So Valve invited us to this secret conference, which we had no idea what this was about. Super excited because we're a small studio at that. We're still small, but we're really small then. And that was when they revealed to us that they had built this whole other competitive product to what Oculus was doing, and it involved room scale VR. So we went from 3 DOF to 6 DOF to full room scale, where I can walk around a control to track volume. Right.
And the launch of Vive was incredible.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it was just so clever that they had this video put together and they showed what was possible. They put you in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they basically gave us, it was us and about 10 other developers that are like, we're going to launch this in 6 months. Can you build a demo to showcase the reveal of this hardware?
Wow.
So they sent us home with all this prototype gear, wires coming out of everything, and it would break constantly, and we're duct taping controllers together, but they had cracked the code of how to do VR in a full, basically an early version of the holodeck.
Yeah.
Right? For the first time, we can physically walk around a space.
Yes.
We know how big it is. I can use my hands to interact.
Dude, it must be so exciting for you because this is your new burgeoning studio. You didn't have like a track record making a bunch of video games, but yet you were with Lucky Palmer and the Oculus team from the ground up, and Valve.
Yeah.
No slouches in technology and game making.
Yeah.
And access to them. And meanwhile, you've got 10 people or something like that? And where are you guys?
Well, we went from, so we've kind of yo-yoed. We went from 3 people in my garage to now we're at 12, but we've been up to 20.
Yes.
It's based on needs and everything.
That's awesome. But your story, you're kind of in a rural part of Vancouver. You're not in, where are you in Vancouver Island?
Qualicum Beach.
In Qualicum Beach.
A retirement town.
Okay, well, I mean, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And people, were these Valve and Oculus people coming to you guys too and checking out?
They were. So Valve came to visit us, and at that time we were at Coombs on Vancouver Island.
Nice.
And we were by Goats on the Roof. There's this famous.
I know Goats on the Roof.
Yeah.
It's a great stop on the way to Tofino. It's incredible. The hot spots, game development, the Goats on the Roof spot right there. It's awesome.
And we were in this brick studio by the river by Goats on the Roof, and there was no fresh water, so they pumped in river water
Are you kidding
into
me?
the studio, and it smelled a lot like farts all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Welcome, Valve. Sorry it smells like farts.
That was
No wonder it's Cloudhead games.
So Valve was taken by the Goats on the Roof and by our fart studio, but we showed them what we were doing, and they knew we were serious despite having zero resources.
Sure. Yes.
And that we were on the right track in terms of design and everything else. So
do you think these are juggernauts now? I mean, Facebook owns Oculus, obviously, and Valve is massive. But because they're big companies, they've been able to experiment and iterate and come up with all kinds of, but they're competitors. And there's other competitors out there. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, I think, because without this competition, we wouldn't have room scale maybe quite as quickly, and we wouldn't have all of these leaps forward and the push, but it's also another console war. It's another, you have to make a choice on what platform and that is restrictive of people just diving in, I would imagine, and frustrating for a game maker.
Fragmentation has been a really big issue in VR in general, because every platform has its own. We're starting to come to parity in terms of what features we need in a VR headset to make a good experience.
Yes.
I think this year specifically is coming to terms with that.
Yeah.
We know that we want something that's room scale. We know we want track controllers. We know we want 6DoF. All these things are starting to make sense to everybody.
Yeah.
So now the design spec is changing. But yes, over the last 5 to 6 years, it's been a real frustration, especially since most studios developing for VR have been doing it on their own dime.
Yeah.
Like there hasn't been a ton.
That seems to be most game developers in general right now.
It's true, but there's no market.
Yeah.
Like so,
Yeah.
we're still dealing with pretty low numbers.
Yes.
Adoption continues to climb.
Yeah.
Yet, so every time we have a conversation about what game we're building, it's always about, well, how many headsets are on market,
Right.
And the number is still significantly lower than the PC market.
What's going to change? Because my theory is you put Star Wars out there with the the X-wing experience as a full deal, that's going to move.
Yes.
And why aren't the companies jumping on that? Why isn't Valve, instead of spending and making Vive better, why aren't they buying the licenses to things that we know and pushing people into these headsets?
I think it's taken this long to educate the public about what VR's capabilities are.
Right.
And this year is pretty significant because you've got Oculus releasing the Quest.
Yes.
Which is basically a VR console.
Yeah.
It's an all-in-one device. You
That's
don't have to
very exciting.
Don't have to hook it up to your computer. It's full. It's inside-out tracking, so it's tracking a volume without having to put cameras on your walls. But it is a lower spec device. It's like kind of a mobile headset.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a certain quality bar of content there.
Will your games be there?
Some of our games will be there, yes.
Cool, okay.
But the porting effort for something that's higher end is difficult and expensive,
Yeah.
right? So you have to kind of build for platform, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's a device that you'll be able to, convince your nephew or your grandma or your aunt to buy. You'll be able to take it in on a bus or to a bar or whatever, a college campus, and go, this is what real VR is.
Yeah.
It's not the $20 thing you buy at Walmart that's that you drop your phone into.
Yeah.
That thing that makes you completely sick.
Right.
But no, that's going to be a significant driver in the market for this year. Also, as has been revealed, and I can talk about it, Valve is launching their own headset,
Yeah.
which is the Index, Valve Index.
Another console war. Here we go.
Yes. What's kind of fascinating to me, though, is it seems like both companies are targeting very different markets.
Right.
So, Oculus with Quest is targeting the
Facebook crowd.
yes, like Mark wants to build this ecosystem for every man, right?
Yeah.
Valve wants to build something that's higher end and will deliver AAA type experiences in VR.
Yeah.
And I think those two segments are completely valid,
Yeah.
right? So it's becoming a lot clearer to us as developers what we have to build towards.
Right. Is HTC out of this now? Are they? I know that they've had some financial issues, but are they still staying with VR? Are they going to continue on?
We talk to those guys all the time, and they're still going. I think it feels like they have a bigger push towards B2B and
Yeah.
Education
Right.
and that kind of thing.
That's actually, honestly, a great point around VR, because I know a lot of developers, because there is a lot of, it's not just money, there's opportunity around VR development, and I know a lot of game developers that are working in medicine and real estate and other kinds of applications for VR, using game design experience and tools, but applying them into different industries and stuff. And that's
Yep.
also another way to grow the market share, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, it branched very early, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is gonna be the best way to tell stories in education or industrial design or whatever," and it is, but it's still taking its time to get there
Yeah.
broadly, right?
Yeah.
But it was also under the gun in terms of what feature sets do we need to use and what are we actually building towards. So from the developer landscape, it's been a very big challenge in terms of what we have to accommodate in a game design. It's not just a simple act of porting to lower spec hardware. It's like, do I even have hands?
Yeah.
Like, or am I constricted to a gamepad, right? So when Valve, introduced us to room scale VR, at that point we had to basically rip apart the game we'd been building for the last those 2 years and rethink how it was happening. So we went from 3DoF to 6DoF to having to do snap turns to suddenly being able to walk around a space. And then we had to think about, well, how are we going to move that physical space that I can physically traverse deeper into the virtual world? And so we developed a system called Blink, which is basically teleportation in VR.
Right.
And so our company did those two things first, which was really interesting because that drove a lot of developers to kind of go in that direction.
Were you getting calls from all over the world and
Lots of conversation, lots of like, why aren't you patenting this thing?
Ah, right, yes.
And fundamentally, it was like, well, you wouldn't patent, or you'd be a real big jerk if you patented WASD in a mouse, right?
Or the word edge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it felt like that would have constrained people. But anyways, we had to think about, what happens if a user only has the space in front of their desk?
Yeah.
What happens if they have a full garage? What if it's an arena scale beyond that? And so we had to build a system that would kind of flex and expand and show the user where their boundaries were and where the center space in their room was, and then how do you push that deeper into the. It was kind of a nightmare, but simultaneously it was like the greatest joy ever because you're doing things where there is no Google search, and it's like that. Yes, like so when you nail those things, it's like pretty significant,
I
right?
bet, yeah. And I sense in you still have that same experimental drive. You still are in that sort of beatific, you're at the beginning kind of part of all of this, because we're not over the edge yet. The language is still being developed.
The thing that puts people off of VR when they see stuff like that is like, well, that's not how I play games right now.
Yes.
I'm not comfortable playing that way.
Yeah.
So a big part of what we have to think about now is how do we accommodate every play style?
Right.
And so smooth locomotion is a big one. So stick motion or pressing W or whatever. And there's ways to get around that. We're starting to see vection portaling. So basically, it's based on velocity. So the faster I move in a space in VR, what I want to do is I want to constrict the player's view. And as I slow down, I'm going to move that back out.
Wild.
So
Wild.
Everything is fixable.
Yeah.
And we're starting to actually have solid understanding about why things make people sick in that way. So another thing you're going to find in the short term over the next year or two is you're going to see a lot more traditional feeling games in VR.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to cross that point where it's like, oh, now the content's becoming sticky, and I get it from every angle, right?
Yeah. Then Sony making big announcements like the Iron Man game that's coming out.
Yes.
Which I think will drive a lot of people, curious people, just like the Batman VR game did.
Yeah, and Sony's actually they shouldn't be left out because they're significant. They're selling the most headsets of all.
Yeah.
And it's primarily because of price point, fitting into that little niche, and the hardware is just good enough where you can kind of, there's some warts, but it's generally pretty good.
It's also really comfortable too, out of the three.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it fits really comfortable. Tell us what's coming up from Cloudhead, can you?
So we have a couple things. Both I can't really say. So, well, one is with a major partner who I previously announced.
Redacted.
But all of that stuff's going to come out this year, and it'll be. It's so hard biting my lip.
You announced all of the major partners. You said
That's
Sony,
right,
Oculus,
exactly.
and Vive. Okay,
Exactly.
Right. Or Valve.
It's things I would love to promote. Actually, but I guess the relevant thing to say is
you have episodes of Starseed. Is there more Starseed?
Yes. Well, so
Okay.
we have 2 episodes, and we're rounding out with a third.
Okay.
And we're talking to partners about.
It's not like Half-Life Episode 3, though.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Make that clear.
it's gonna end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's some stuff happening this year that I would love to come back and talk to you about because it's pretty relevant to what's happening in the market just in general.
Awesome. All right, let's definitely make that happen. I told you this guy has a fascinating story. It's so incredible that you didn't really come from games, but you've become a pretty big player in the VR video game
You
space.
don't need to know anything. You just hire people that know things. No.
That's awesome, Denny. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming,
It was
and
really good to be here.
continued success with Cloudhead Games.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Round of applause. Yes. That's awesome. We'll definitely have you back.
Cool.
100%.
Yeah.
I didn't throw out anything, did I? Okay, let's go to a review of a Netflix movie, which I forgot the name. Oh, The Highwaymen.
What do you plan to do about Bonnie and Clyde?
We will capture them. Write that down and underline it twice.
Netflix, you're getting better at this. I actually had a good time watching the new movie that you guys have just put out there called The Highwaymen. It stars Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. It's directed by John Lee Hancock, who did a great job with The Founder with Michael Keaton not so long ago. You should check that movie out if you've never seen it. But The Highwaymen is a cool story. It's about a couple of Texas Rangers who have done some heinous things in their past, all in the name of their job. They're brought back out of retirement to go and hunt down and kill Bonnie and Clyde.
This has gone far enough. I'm gonna take them down.
What a fine idea.
Way before the age of social media and things like Kanye West and stuff, these guys were the rock stars of the day, Bonnie and Clyde. And everybody loves them in all the towns because they were stealing from banks and sharing some of the wealth with some of the poor people that they would meet in different towns. But they were also killing a lot of innocent people. And a governor played by Kathy Bates says, okay, we've had enough. Take these two out no matter what it takes. And you got to kill them. You got to put them down because they are just going on this senseless trip of violence. So, of course, what we get is crotchety old Kevin Costner and crotchety old Woody Harrelson moving like super slow, but they still got it with the gunslinging, and we see them doing some practicing a little bit. They're basically sleuthing. They have to go on a road trip across all of these different states to try to track down Bonnie and Clyde, and they're running into, family members and friends, and of course they are besieged by the groupies that Bonnie and Clyde have in each of these different towns, and they're just gobsmacked by it because it's crazy. And we don't really get to see the Bonnie and Clyde side of the story. I guess if you want that, you check out the Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway movie. This is more about these Texas Rangers and what was in their thinking and the sheer drive and determination, even against some of the law enforcement officials that didn't like the fact that these Texas Rangers were kind of operating on their own. And it's based on some historical fact. I'm sure there's been a lot of liberties taken with getting this dramatized, but it's a solid piece of filmmaking. I was not aware that the Texas Rangers had been decommissioned and then brought back in, and this was their first big job to complete, to show their value and show their worth, and then it turned out that they were recommissioned, and so we had more Texas Rangers after this.
I'm a Texas Ranger, you little shit.
It was just an interesting tale, and it was very well performed. I thought Kevin Costner was terrific in this. It's not a glamorous role. He looks like he's been beaten down by life a little bit. The way that they set him up is that he's found a good wife and a good life with Kim Dickinson, but he just looks like he is fully retired in all senses of the word at the beginning of this film. So it's cool to see him sort of dust himself off and get back into it. And Woody Harrelson looks like he has been beaten down by poverty and alcoholism a little bit, and he's struggling with some inner demons. His eyes are bloodshot through the entire movie. But there is a camaraderie and a trust that you can see performed by these two incredible actors.
Judas Priest, get in.
And Kevin Costner's always been a terrific actor at not really revealing too much. He's a natural actor. He doesn't play to the screen, but he's a handsome dude, and the camera just loves the guy, but he doesn't really ham it up, at least not now, Maybe when he was a younger man, he'd kind of played to the camera, played to his good looks a little bit more, but this time it's just all, he's very dead set on his job. He's very much just thinking of get from point A to point B with as little interference as possible, and he's got a job to do. He's got to get, and all of that is exemplified in his performance, which I thought was really solid. John Carroll Lynch is in this movie, and that guy is always believable. He is the embodiment of naturalism and just fine work, and whatever you throw this character actor into.
This has to end.
Very interesting filmmaking. I love the period setting as well. It looks incredible. All of the different locations that they found to shoot in look like they're just frozen in a time period, which was great, and lots of interesting faces and outfits and costumes and stuff that we just don't see. It was cool. We also saw a lot of the remnants and the devastation of the Great Depression as we're careening through these different towns and stuff as well. Lots of smudged faces and people looking super downtrodden. Some powerful imagery, some great work, and a very interesting subject. I like the Highwaymen quite a bit. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. All right, you guys, we're running over in time a little bit, so we are jumping right into Let's Play and Chat, and today we are going to be taking a look at Yoshi's Crafted World, which I freaking love. Josue Martinez is going to join us. Let's round of applause for Josue. It's good to see you, my friend.
Good to be here.
Come on up here and grab a seat, and you get to take the control. You can choose whichever Yoshi you want. You don't have to be green. You can be whatever color you want. We are completely Yoshi agnostic here.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? All right, so you know the deal. It's Let's Play and Chat. If you've got any questions or comments, presumably some of you may be talking a little bit about the Anthem story. Let us know. Do me a favor, though, at least put some caps in there so I can have a better time checking it out. But it's awesome to see you, Ty Fish and Blair Farrell and Next Gen Expert and Mission Failed. Woody is great. I agree with you. We've got Sam I Am 111 in there. We've got Donovan King. Looks like you guys have been having some great conversations. The VR Grid, who you guys should know, I think, at Do you know the VR Grid? They're pretty big in the VR. They're always pushing me on VR. Cover more VR games. Review those. They're big on him. And he's a great guy. I actually played online one of the shooters in VR with him, and he was very helpful. Let's see what we got here. Wolf Packs. I love the Costner movie, The Guardian, and Tin Cup. Even the Postman and Waterworld. Never understood the hate. Kevin Costner's good. He's a solid actor. Question from Famous Seamus. What do you think about people from Bioware saying that management is telling them not to talk to the press? It's all brutal. It's all ugly. It's an incredibly sensitive time. I think that the wrong thing could be said in terms of maybe a company secret, but more importantly, the morale within the studio. And I think that's what they're trying to protect more than anything. They've got a bunch of employees that have to show up every day, and they have to have a team meeting, and they got to say, look, we're still all in this together. We're going in one direction. They're working on stuff right now. And that could be derailed if everybody's questioning everything, you know? That's the challenge of mobilizing an army, which BioWare has to do every single day. And that army is being scrutinized both externally and internally right now. So my heart is out to them. My heart goes out to them. Vic, are you still considering on allowing EPN members to have buried treasure videos? Yes, I am. I didn't get online to check out who wants to do that yesterday, but I'll send out a message to the EPN members either later tonight or tomorrow, okay? But I definitely am. Taz is asking, will Bear be on before E3? Oh, we have 2 contests going right now. Yeah, okay. Will Bear be on before E3? I'll ask him. We were just chatting the other day. He's big on Mortal Kombat 11 right now, so I would love to have him back. Wouldn't it be great to have Bear back on, Johnny? Yeah, I miss the guy. Ty Fish asking, hey, Vic, Donnie said he'll convert all the classic EPs to digital for free for you anytime. Oh, really? Oh, really? Awesome. That's a big job. It's a big job. You'd basically have to live here because we can't ship the tapes anywhere. There's like 10,000 tapes. Yeah, there's so many tapes, and it's not just the episodes, right? We want to convert every single interview. We got long forms we have 20-minute interviews that were cut down into 2 minutes, right? So we have a lot, and we want to do it all, but it's a big job. I know people want the old stuff, and they want the new stuff, and they want me to have a review partner every time. They want it all. And the media days are so different now, man. I mean, look at what Strombo is doing. He's got concerts going on in his house. You know, he used to have a daily talk show on CBC. Now he has people come to his house, which it's great. I love what Strombo's doing. But George Stroumboulopoulos is a Canadian icon. And he had access to everybody at every level. Politics, authors, actors, movie stars, musicians. The huge music guy, came from Much Music, and now he does a show out of his home, which is great. Still does CBC radio and stuff, but it's just a different era in media, and you just have to roll with it and change and do all that stuff. So can't do everything, but maybe one day we'll take you up on one of these offers to help us digitize everything. That sounds pretty cool. Jamie Andrews comment, thanks for the rundown. Shout out, Vic. You're welcome. You're welcome, Jamie. Swangor says, I live in Toronto, so Ty Fish said he'd pay for shipping. I'm not shipping the tapes out. The tapes are going to be living near us. I love that you guys are doing a production meeting here, though. This is awesome in the chat. That's great. Evening, the Yoshi game rocks. That's from the Ren. It really does. It's wonderful. I mean, it's so cute and harmless, but it's so beautifully made. And if you play with a child beside you, or you pass the controller back and forth, you are going to be in heaven, which I had the privilege of being able to do. Graham Coombs saying, hi Vic, what do you think BioWare could do to really change Anthem for the better and encourage players to give the game another shot? Oh my God, that's a hard question. Johnny's got an idea. Better loot? I mean, I can't think structurally. I mean, one of the things that I said about Anthem, and it was very true when I played Destiny 2, is the minutia and detail that they poured into the game in Anthem. You fly over that because that's what's fun in Anthem, and because you fly through the world, you see it all, and so it's like you're just eating the whole thing super fast. So you don't even want to walk around. And because you don't walk around, you don't get all the details. And I think that's where they structurally screwed up. They let you be a superhero, but they didn't build enough world for your superhero-ness to appreciate and enjoy. And so you're just flying and seeing the same things over and over again. So I don't know what they do. It's big. It's big, but you honestly see a lot of because they can't do every blade of grass and change. The question was, how big is the map in Anthem? There's repetition in the textures and the geometry and the ruins that you see, and because of that, it feels like you're flying over the same thing. You'll see the same flock of birds do that sweeping move over a cascading rainbow, and it's like, okay, that was great the first 1,000 times I saw it, but they kind of painted themselves into a corner. I think honestly what they'd have to do with Anthem is remove the flying and force you into a which people would hate, but it would force you to explore. Yeah. The game feels like that. The game feels like they had no flying, and then they added flying, and then they had no flying. It's tough, man. I honestly don't know what they would do. I feel like they, I don't know what they would do. It's like a moving car that they got to fix as it's moving. Oh, my heart bleeds for those guys. Taz, are you and John going on a movie date as soon as the stream is over? Yes, we are. We'll tell you all about it tomorrow. What do we got here from Sam I Am 111? Question: how do you fix the issue that physically disabled gamers are at such a large disadvantage while playing VR? Is there a way to fix this? Ooh, that's a good question. That's a Denny question. Denny's still in the room. How do you fix?
Yeah, it's just giving enough player options. Absolutely. If you're
Yeah. Yes. Okay, we don't have a broad enough palette of player options, Denny is saying, but we will. And I think maybe one of the solutions is to focus less on competitive gaming in VR and more on experiential gaming that people take away, right? I would think. I don't know. I don't make the games. I just talk about them. Question: can you talk about the TELUS thing, Jamie? No, I cannot. Thanks for asking. Jamie, or JBJ Blaze, question. Speaking of tapes, do you guys still have that 50 Shades of Grey Blu-ray that Blake totally offered to review for you? I think we probably do have a 50 Shades of Grey Blu-ray. It sounds like we need to have a holiday special and give it away to some lucky viewer. What else we got in here? I'm looking at the time because we have a hard stop at 5:30. Even though I know you want to keep playing Yoshi forever.
Oh, I want to get 100%.
I understand. It's an amazing game. We're talking about Kim Dickens, who is in that the Highwaymen movie, which is actually really good. Let's see. I'm trying to get a good couple of last questions here. When is Marissa Roberta going to be on the show? From Rowan Strata. Soon. We haven't done a Skype interview on the show in a little while, and she's in Toronto, so it's not that we're opposed to it, it's just that we have this space, it's a physical space, and there's a dynamic kind of quality to have people with me up here. And so we've been trying to take advantage of the people that are coming to Vancouver or through Vancouver or are based here. And of course she's not. She's in Toronto. It breaks my heart that she's in Toronto and Scott's in Toronto and Sean and Steve and Raju and Ben and Jose. Actually, Ben's at Apple now, so he can't ever be on the show. He has to go through a layer of 15 approvals before he could be here. But I miss all of my old teammates and want them on the show as often as possible. But I'm also trying to create something that's in the room enjoyable as well. Although we definitely will be incorporating Skype into the mix, and I think the first person we'll probably chat with is Jose, and then I'll definitely catch up with Marissa because I know some things have changed with the way that she's making her shows as well, so we have lots to catch up on. Let's see. Next Gen Expert. Hey Vic, sorry I haven't been around for quite a few months, but I have been retweeting EPN as much as possible on Twitter, and hope it helps you out in any way. I hope you remember me. Of course we do, Next Gen Expert, and any help that you've got out there, spreading the word, through retweets or sharing the content or posting links on Facebook or whatever, all helps. It's all incredible, and we greatly appreciate it. It's a different world for this stuff, right? A lot of it is word of mouth. We have so many things that take our attention. I get it. Everybody that makes content is in this kind of crowded boat. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of people trying to get attention out there. So if you like what we do and you share it, we appreciate that very much. It's awesome. Question from Tyfish, do you plan to ever do more Vic's Basement or more personal styled streams in the future? Yes, 100%. I will be setting up a little recording studio at my house and creating an audio only version of Vic's Basement as soon as I find the time, but I definitely plan on doing that. And I think I've got time for one more from Black Suited Spider-Man. Oh, this is a good one too. Which N64 game should come to the Switch? I think all of them.
Yeah.
Right? I think the Switch should get everything that Nintendo's ever put out and be the best system in human history for video games, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
I think that'd be great, right?
That'd be
If it
awesome.
can run it, why not have all of them, right? I think what the business needs to overcome, we talked about this a couple of days ago, is this these limitations on the licensing. I mean, I really hope that whoever is handling licensing deals around video game content is doing a lot of the same stuff that's going on in the movie world, where they license for perpetuity, so that you can have a soundtrack that's filled with famous artists and they can't be ripped out of the software. There should be this kind of appreciable sort of understanding that games are art, and the art that you're attaching to that art needs to stay with it. And likewise, when these companies license amazing properties like James Bond and make a GoldenEye game that stands the test of time, that should be able to be re-released, and that should be on the Switch. And we should have a nice library of N64 games and Super Nintendo games that are based on characters that we know and love for the historical significance of it, if nothing else, But because of these really ridiculous licensing deals that people that didn't really look forward enough when they were putting the deals together, they just sort of thought, oh, quick bucks, we're going to make our some good returns on this investment this quarter. They should have been thinking long term. They should have been thinking, what are they going to do with this software forever? And I really hope that that's what's going on now. I really hope that as we see these games like Marvel's Spider-Man is a great example from Sony. Sony has that. They bought that. They paid for it. But they also paid for a lot of licensed music in there and other little bits and pieces. So hopefully that is a game that, a generation 20 years from now can still download it to their PlayStation 8 or whatever and still play it, I think we're learning some big lessons around all of that stuff. But I think GoldenEye should be on the Switch as it was on the N64. Great question, you guys, and that's going to do it for our show for today. I want to give another thank you to Denny Unger for coming out to see us here on EP Live. And Josue, I hope you enjoyed your little taste of Yoshi's Crafted World.
It was awesome.
Amazing game,
we'll
right?
play again.
Okay, very cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new rundown for you, and then on Friday we have another EP Live. And our guest on EP Live on Friday, I'm forgetting who it is. Blake, who is it again? I can't remember. Somebody cool. Somebody cool. I can't believe it. A lot going on today. But please come back tomorrow for the rundown and get caught up on all the awesome content that we've been making. And if you dig it, hit subscribe, hit that bell, and play forever.